guys, first I want to say thanks for purchasing the Raikuda course. This video is about the tuning that I'm using and the gauge of string and the action on the guitar. A few people have asked me about that, how I approach that. Now, as I think I mentioned, the guitar's tuned to G tuning and I'm using a capo on the 2nd fret. Now, the gauge of string that I use is a 12 to 52 gauge. It's a Diodario EJ21 gauge of string, and it has a wound G string. So it's a bit like an acoustic guitar gauge in a sense, a medium kind of gauge string. Now, I do swap out the top string, 1st string, for a 14 because G tuning and D tuning, which by the way are the two only tunings I use on this guitar with this gauge of string, and there's a reason for that. So I opted to put a 14 on the top because it's going down to D, because if you're going to go for a D or a G tuning, the strings are going to be somewhat slacker than standard tuning. So if we talk about standard tuning as the benchmark. These are slack tunings, because the tension is not as tense on the strings because we're tuning lower. So, hence, if you have a thicker string, it won't feel as sloppy. Yeah, that's how I set up for G and D tuning. And I guess, I'll get a photo of this. It's the height at the 12th fret is important, I think. The way I've set up the guitar, it's not a super high action. It's actually an action that I can still, play chord shapes on as I go up the neck. I mean, the action does climb up. It does get higher as you come up to the 12th fret. The action certainly is higher. So, having said that, when I put that capo on the 2nd fret, the action is going to drop slightly. It's going to push the strings down. So the action around these first couple of frets is a bit lower as opposed to playing with the capo off. So it's a bit of a juggling act, really. And that's why I have one guitar set up just for this tuning. Now, if you had a standard tuning guitar with most guitars are tuned to like a 10 to 46 gauge. If you wanted to play this song in A tuning, which is what it ends up being, you could tune those strings up and the tension would be tighter. So you would get away with lighter strings with a tighter tension tuning. And that's what E tuning and A tuning is. It's the pitch is higher. You're tuning the strings higher. So for me to tune these strings up because they're thicker, it wouldn't work for me. I don't think the strings would be too thick for that higher tuning. So it's almost like you have a guitar set up for E and A tuning or D and G tuning. You'd have two different gauge strings for each of those two tunings, if that makes sense. So, it took me quite a bit of trial and error to find what kind of works, but I find that's what works. If you start with, this gauge of string 12 to 52, swap out the string, I think you've got a good gauge string for an electric guitar for these type of tunes that we're doing. The other thing is you can play this song, all of the stuff that on the lessons, you could play the song in G tuning, okay, as well, because that's what it is. But I chose A based on what I was learning at the time on the videos and songs that I based it off. So yeah, that's one part of it. The pickups and the type of guitar, the CUDA-caster as they call it. If you wanted to save yourself a whole lot of trouble that I went through to construct this guitar myself, there's a guy called Waterslide Guitars who makes these guitars. So that would save you a lot of time just to buy a guitar from that guy, and he could build you a guitar like this. And I would probably think about, what tuning you're going to use on that guitar, because I don't think you can cover all of the tunings with one string gauge and get away with all the tunings. I don't think you can do it. So I think A tuning and E tuning are great tunings, but they just require a different setup and a different gauge of string. So I hope that helps a little bit. If you've got any questions, give me a shout, and I'll be happy to help you. Just think about that. And of course, get someone to help you set it up as well. Go to a luthier, someone that builds guitars or someone that sets up guitars. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is the weight of the slide. I think it's really important. Glass is fundamentally a lighter slide, though these ones have some weight to them, which I kind of like. So that plays a big part in the feel and the on the string. If you've got really light, skinny strings, like if you just attempt to play slide with 10 to 46, say in an E tuning, and you've got a really heavy brass slide, it's going to put that extra weight on the string, is going to push down on the strings. So if I'm using a lighter gauge of string, I would think you would need a lighter slide to make that work. And if you've got a really thick set of strings, and a thicker slide would work better. So what I'm getting at is it's the weight. It's the weight of the slide, the tension of the strings, and the gauge of the strings. All of those factors combined with what tuning you're going for play a role in how easy it is to play this stuff, or how it feels to play this stuff. So I hope that helps, and thanks for supporting my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.